is as if some part of your brain stored the way you used to draw as a young child. If you probably tried the demonstration, you will notice that your drawing is more childlike than the usual. Young children, age 5 or so, when drawing with the right hand, almost always draw people and animals facing them. But why? The short answer is, I don't know. We have so much to learn about the control of movements and how it relates to perception, motivation, and other functions. Why do we need brains at all? Plants can survive without them, but humans need brains in order to survive, move, and react. Ultimately, the purpose of our brain is to control behaviors, and behaviors are movements. The three main types of vertebrate muscles.
Smooth muscles, found in the intestines and other organs, consist of long, thin cells. Skeletal muscle consists of long cylindrical fibers with stripes. Cardiac muscle, found in the heart, consists of fibers that fuse together at various points.
Each muscle is composed of many fibers, although each muscle fiber receives information from only one axon. A given axon may innervate more than one muscle fiber. For example, the eye muscles have a ratio of about 1 axon per 3 muscle fibers, and the biceps muscles of the arm have a ratio of 1 axon to more than 100 fibers. This difference allows the eye to move more precisely than the biceps. Moving a leg or arm back and forth requires opposing sets of muscles called antagonistic muscles. At your elbow, for example, you have a flexor muscle that brings your hand toward your shoulder and an extensor muscle that straightens the arm. Myasthenia gravis is an autoimmune disease in which the immune system forms antibodies that attack the acetylcholine receptors at neuromuscular junctions, causing weakness and rapid fatigue of the skeletal muscles. The biceps of the arm is a flexor, the triceps is an extensor. Imagine you are a small fish. Your only defense against bigger fish, diving birds, and other predators is your ability to swim away. Your temperature is the same as the water around you, and muscle construction being chemical process slow down in the cold. So when the water gets cold, presumably you will move slowly. Strangely, you will not. You will have to use more muscles than before, but you will swim at about the same speed. Because a fish has 3 kinds of muscle: red, pink, and white. Red muscles produce the slowest movements, but they do not fatigue. White muscles produce the fastest movements, but they fatigue rapidly. Pink muscles are intermediate in speed and rate of fatigue. At high temperatures, a fish relies mostly on red and pink muscles. At colder temperatures, the fish relies more and more on white muscles, maintaining its speed and fatiguing faster. Our muscle types range from fast twitch fibers with fast contraction and rapid fatigue to slow twitch fibers with less contraction and no fatigue. For example, you could talk for hours without fatiguing your lip muscles. You might walk for a long time too, but if you run up a steep hill at full speed,
you switch to fast-twitch fibers, which fatigue rapidly. Slow-switch fibers do not fatigue because they are aerobic. They use oxygen during their movements. You can think of them as pay-as-you-go. Vigorous use of fast-twitch fibers results in fatigue because the process is anaerobic, using reactions that do not require oxygen at the time, although they need oxygen for recovery.
Individual differences depend on both genetics and training because people have different percentage of fast-twitch fibers and slow-switch fibers. A proprioceptor is a receptor that detects the position or movement of a part of the body. In these cases, a muscle.
One kind of proprioceptor is the muscle spindle, a receptor parallel to the muscle that responds to a stretch. Whenever the muscle spindle is stretched, its sensory nerve sends a message to a motor neuron in the spinal cord, which in turn sends a message back to the muscles surrounding the spindle, causing a contraction.
Another kind of proprioceptor is a Golgi tendon organ. Respond decrease in muscle tension. We generally think of reflexes as involuntary because they are insensitive of reinforcement, punishment, and motivation. Different kinds of movement depends on different kinds of control by the nervous system.
Infant reflexes. Grasp reflex. If you place an object firmly in an infant's hand, the infant grabs it. The rooting reflex. If you touch an infant's cheek, the infant turns his or her head toward the stimulated cheek and begins to suck. Babinski reflex. If you stroke the sole of the foot, the infant extends the big toe and fans the other.
Some movements are ballistic.
For example, when you thread a needle, you make a slight movement, check your aim, and then readjust.
A ballistic movement is executed as a whole. Once initiated, it cannot be altered. We refer to a fixed sequence of movements as a motor program.
The anatomy of movement. Primary motor cortex or M1. M1 is located in the frontal lobe of the brain, along a bump called the precentral gyrus. The role of the primary motor cortex is to generate neural impulses that control the execution of movement. Other regions of the cortex involved in motor function are called the secondary motor cortices. These regions include the posterior parietal cortex, the premotor cortex, and the supplementary motor area. Posterior parietal cortex is involved in transforming visual information into motor commands. Premotor cortex. It is involved in the sensory guidance of movement and controls the more proximal muscles and trunk muscles of the body. Supplementary motor area. It is involved in the planning of complex movements and in coordinating two-handed movements. Supplementary motor area and the premotor regions both send information to the primary motor cortex as well as to the brainstem motor region.
What is Parkinson's disease? Parkinson's disease is an illness that affects the part of your brain that control how you move your body. It can come on so slowly that you don't even notice it at first, but over time, what starts as a little shakiness in your hand can have an impact on how you walk, talk, sleep, and think. You're more likely to get it when you're 60 and older. It is also possible for it to start when you're younger, but that doesn't even happen nearly as often. There's no cure for Parkinson's disease, but you can get treatment and support to help manage the symptoms.
Dr. Wendy Bond says the first noticeable symptoms of Parkinson's disease are depression, fatigue, anxiety, and even some memory loss. But they're not usually recognized as being associated with Parkinson's disease.
What is Huntington's disease? It's a hereditary and progressive brain disorder. You cannot catch it from another person, although symptoms may first show up in midlife. Huntington's can strike anyone from childhood to advanced age, over 10 to 25 years. The disease gradually kills nerve cells in the brain. This affects the body, mind, and emotions.
Involve progressive central nervous system disturbances, including movement, cognitive, and mood symptoms. The average age of onset is around 40 years old, although remember that the age of onset depends on the number of CAG repeats.
Rigid muscles, slow movements, tremors, and walking and balance problems. Deep down in your brain, there's an area called the substantia nigra. Some of its cells make dopamine, a chemical that carries messages around your brain. When you need to scratch an itch or kick a ball, dopamine quickly carries a message to the nerve cell that controls the movement. When that system is working well, your body moves smoothly and evenly. But when you have Parkinson's, the cells of your substantia nigra start to die. There's no replacing them, so your dopamine levels drop and you cannot fire off as many messages to control your body. Early on, you won't notice anything different, but as more and more cells die, you reach a tipping point where you start to have the symptoms. That may not be until 80% of the cells are gone, which is why you can have Parkinson's for quite a while before you realize it.